Coming up on the Empowered Woman podcast.
Most people, this is an internal conversation and they're keeping it to themselves. And the distress is building and their ability to tolerate it is weakening. And so it could be 7 years or 1 year or however, whatever period of time it is that you go through the stages of a deteriorating marriage.
Welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on visibility strategies for women entrepreneurs. If you want to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice and business, you're in the right place. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, professional singer and visibility strategist. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode.
Looking for an inspiring read? Everyday Magic is a book that teaches mindfulness through ritual and gratitude practices that can be done every day at any age. Purchase your copy today on Amazon.
Hi, Dr. Becky. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Marta. I could not be happier to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I am so excited to chat with you because I know you work with women and couples out there, helping them with their relationships. So why don't we just jump right in? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, hey, okay. I'm Becky Whetstone. My kind of business moniker is Marriage Crisis Manager. And this is a specialty within the marriage and family therapy field that I created because there was a huge need for this, and there was no training in this in the marriage and family therapy programs. And so a lot of marriage and family therapists were sending, like couples would go, well, I think I want a divorce. And marriage and family therapists would go, oh, okay, bye. And they're about to enter into one of the most distressing, crazy times of their lives. And I could not understand why our field wasn't training therapists to handle them through this. And, there's going to be another year or two of, distress, upheaval. And we were just, dropping them off at the corner and leaving people on their own. So when I was in graduate school, it's because I had been through a marriage crisis myself and couldn't find help and saw the aftermath of that. I get in grad school, I find out they don't train us in that. And so when I was doing my dissertation research, I made it a point to focus on marriage crisis and everything about it. So I was forced to read all the research probably that's ever been done on it and read books about it. And I found unbelievably helpful information that if therapists knew about it, they could really be making a difference in families, throughout the world. So I got out of graduate school, and it's not like I was begging to do this, but I just felt like, gosh, if nobody else is going to do this, I'd better step up and fill the void. So I've been developing this niche for about 20 years and have tweaked it over the years, and then it has become a thing. And I really want to train therapists in how to do this and make it very, very commonplace instead of hard to find. And then the book came out in February, which is really helping me wake people up to this void of information.
Wow. Oh my gosh, what a story. And seeing the need, understanding that there isn't a whole lot out there, and then developing it, because that's what we do, right? We see a need and we're like, I'll do it. I'll step in. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then, it's almost like it's a divine thing. I was telling some friends last night at dinner that, there was just this voice nagging me. I had a nag in my head, telling me that I had to do this. So, I guess that's what drive sounds like in your head.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you for stepping up to the task and doing all that you're doing to support people, and also to help with the training of professionals to be able to support more people, because we can only do so much on our own, right? So that is amazing. Well, I want to talk more about the book, but let's first things first. Tell us what a marriage crisis is, because I know people are experiencing it out there, but it's important to have a good definition.
Well, I quote the statistics. There's 650,000 plus divorces a year in the United States.
Wow.
And every one of those started with a marriage crisis. Okay. And then think about the ones that didn't divorce that had a marriage crisis in addition to the 650. So, you know, you probably know somebody right now that's in a marriage crisis because that's how common it is. Now, marriage crisis is a phenomenon. Like we can predict how human beings are going to, what they're going to do and how they're going to act in this dynamic. And so let's just say I'm a person that's going to have a marriage crisis, okay? And so what happens is I realize at some point in my marriage, I think I'm unhappy. And here's the problem with most people is they do not tell their spouses, I'm seriously struggling in the marriage. Most people, this is an internal conversation and they're keeping it to themselves. And the distress is building and their ability to tolerate it is weakening. And so it could be 7 years or 1 year or however, whatever period of time it is that you go through the stages of a deteriorating marriage. Eventually you get down to the bottom where you have a straw that breaks the camel's back. Your partner does something or doesn't do something one day that you just get this clarity going, oh my God, I cannot be with a person who would do this. And so once you hit the straw, it's just a matter of time before you kind of come out of the closet and reveal to your partner, I think I want out. I think I want a divorce. I'm very unhappy in the marriage. I'm thinking of divorce. And so it is that moment that a marriage crisis begins. That's when the whole, both nervous systems go into the fight, flight, or freeze response. Both people are freaking out. One person's wanting to fight for the marriage and run after their partner who wants to leave, and the partner who wants to leave wants to run away as far away as they can. And another way to enter into marriage crisis is, let's say tonight I found out that my husband had spent all of our retirement, or I found out that he's been drinking gallons of vodka every day. You get these kind of bombshell. I've had clients where their spouse gambled all their money away, and so all of a sudden in one moment you learn this egregious felony crime of the marriage, and then the person enters a marriage crisis. So, what I do is I try to, attract those kind of people to my practice. And the first step I do is work to stabilize them because their nervous systems are so kicked up. And I educate them about don't do anything right now. Let's slow this puppy down. Slow down, that we're not in a hurry. Nothing has to be decided today. And then, like I said, I educate them about what's going on with them and what we need to do right now to stabilize this thing.
Oh my gosh. You gave me so many things that I want to unpack and talk about.
Cool.
So the first thing that you said was it starts with that internal conversation and they don't share it. And then it snowballs. Yes. And then all of a sudden it's like, I can't do this anymore. And the other person was not even informed.
They're like, what the hell?
Where did this come from?
That's typically what happens.
Okay.
Now, there are those people who are griping all along, going, you've got to change this. I'm going to leave you if you don't do that. There are people that do that, right? And I applaud the people that speak out. Okay. But even then, they don't come in soon enough to the marriage therapist. They try to handle these things on their own. And this is like, cats driving a car is a complete disaster. When I tell people like, okay, so now, right, today I became disillusioned with my marriage. I think I'm unhappy. Let me just wait and see what happens here. But when you get to the next stage where you go, you know what, I'm seriously unhappy. This isn't going away. This could even end up in divorce. Wait a minute, I don't want a divorce. When you get to that point right there is when you have to take your marriage to the marriage therapist and you have to talk to your partner. It's the secrets of your unhappiness are the cancer cells. in a marriage that's going to have a marriage crisis.
That is such good insight. And like you were saying, the education piece, right? People don't know this because they haven't been thinking about this until it happens to them. So it's important
Exactly.
to seek professional help because they've seen a lot of things, and then they can support, like the stories that you were sharing. It helps to illustrate because maybe somebody out there will be like, well, that's me, or I know somebody, and
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't try to fix your own broken leg, would you?
oh no, hope not.
I could fix it myself. You
Yeah,
know, to me, that's as crazy how it is trying to fix your own marriage crisis and manage it.
that is
Like
so.
people just, they're not equipped to do it. And they're in a terrible, freaked out state of mind where their level of behavior kind of sinks low.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're funny. I love how you approach the whole thing. It helps, bring some lightness to the crisis because
You have to. I mean,
uh,
why not?
I like it. So you're telling us the communication with your partner is important, obviously seeking professional help. What are some other tips that you have for somebody that is listening to us and being like, dang it, I didn't realize it, but I guess I'm in a marriage crisis, or maybe they already knew and this is
Mhm.
very good timing.
Yeah, well, I mean, go to a marriage therapist. And I'm trying to educate marriage therapists about this right now, but if your marriage therapist doesn't know, hopefully they will refer you to someone like me who that's all I do all day long is manage marriages in crisis. I'm an overseer of the whole thing, but I'm also a mental health therapist. So I'm able to help them mentally and emotionally and guide them toward the things they need to do to get better. This process is a wake up call to get healthy yourself. So that's one of the first things we're going to do as we try to get the couple stabilized. Okay, well, you had all these mental and emotional disabilities that you weren't doing anything about, and they ended up almost breaking your marriage. So now you've got to go address those things.
That's so good.
So,
The personal
yeah.
responsibility too, because oftentimes we want to point fingers and it's like, well, where's your share in this situation, right?
The blamers are going to get a lot of questions from me.
Oh, that is so important. Really developing that awareness. Tell us more about the book. I love the name. I was telling you before we started recording that I love the cover. You said I wanted to keep it upbeat. When did you decide, all right, it's time to do it? How was the writing process? Tell us. Hey, let me ask you a question. Would you like to be my next guest on the Empowered Woman podcast? Do you have a story you'd like to share? Want more visibility for your business on a show ranked in the top 0.5% in the world? Well, then head on over to martasburg.com/podcast guest for more information.
Well, when I graduated from graduate school in 2006, I had written this dissertation. I had all this great research and everything. So I started writing the book in 2006.
Okay.
And I actually started trying to and when you're writing nonfiction, I don't know if any of y'all know, but most nonfiction authors don't have to present a completed book to the publisher. They only have to write 3 chapters. And so, I had it that far, had about 3 chapters written, and I was trying to find publishers, and I was rejected. I mean, total over 20 years, probably 250 times or more. They would tell me it was very negative because I didn't save every marriage in the end. And, I'm going, but people need to know, like you could say that becoming aware of the stages of cancer is negative,
Yeah.
but it's information that people really need to be aware of. I mean, come on. So, but anyway, so I would go through these spurts, every few years trying to get a publisher. And actually, the first thing you do is try to get an agent. I could not get an agent. And so I'd come back every few years and try again and get rejected. And then a few years ago, I hit age 60. I'm looking around and my friends are having strokes and heart attacks, and some of them are dying, And so I said to myself, dear God, anything could happen at any moment. And you can't pass away till you get this information out there. This is what you're supposed to do in your life. And so I totally hunkered down and and I hired a book editor who I would write the first chapter to and send to her. And we planned out the whole book, mainly me, but I would send it to her going, how does this look? And she would reassure me that this was a good plan. I would send each chapter to her one at a time, and I'd get all her feedback about it. And she was so positive. But she helped me perfect it. And we wrote the whole thing. We had the whole thing finished and ready to go. And then we spent about 6 or 8 months writing a book proposal. And then again, I tried for about 8 months to get an agent. I was rejected again and again and again. Many said, you're just not famous enough. You don't have enough social media followers. And so I started writing a blog to try and raise my profile because they told me you've got to focus on something. And much to my surprise, writing this blog on Medium, I started noticing an immediate rise in interest in readers. And some of my blogs were excerpts from the book, and they went viral. I'd have over 500,000 people read these articles. And then these people were calling me, wanting me to help them. So the blog really helped, me show the publisher that there was a tremendous interest in this. So my editors finally said, look, all right, let me call this publisher I know who doesn't require you to have an agent. And she called HCI Books, and they read my proposal. And like 2 days later, they offered me a contract, and I couldn't believe it. I'm still in shock. I finally sold it. So after all these years, y'all, it came out in February.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations for sticking with it. Because, oftentimes we'll get lots of closed doors and no's. But I love what you said. You started realizing I can't die and not get this word out. And that's great encouragement for people listening that are still sitting on the idea or sometimes in the manuscript, right? Or waiting for somebody to come and do the work or whatever it may be. Just get it out there because the world needs your message.
Well, I think hiring the editor was a crucial piece for me because she, it held me accountable.
Yes.
Kind of had her on the payroll,
Mm-hmm.
and I did it on purpose, so I would say, well, you got to get that chapter into her, let's move on. And it was funny because I got after 8 chapters. I was getting ready to write the 9th chapter, and she said, the book is done. Don't write any more chapters. It might have been 30 chapters long. And she had stopped me.
Mm-hmm.
But she just said, no, this is it right here. Just stop right now. So it was, she was so invaluable, and she had been divorced. And she would just send me these emails going, wow, I wish someone had told me this. Why wasn't this out there? I've got friends I want to send this to right now. And so she was my validator.
That's awesome. The power of accountability, right?
So
Also great advice for somebody out there that's stuck, having an editor, having somebody to support you through this journey, because when we're doing it alone, it's tough. But that's amazing. So remind us the name of the book and where can people find it?
I think I want out what to do when one of you wants to end your marriage. And I want to stress that don't wait till a marriage crisis to buy this book, because it really helps you diagnose your marriage now to see where you are, and it tells you what's going to happen. Like if you don't address, the issues as soon as you possibly can. The book is available at all major booksellers online, and you can get it in audio, digital, and paperback.
Amazing. What a great resource. We'll make sure and have it in the show notes so people can go check it out. Now, I love the tidbits of stories you have already shared, but I'm super curious to hear about a story that comes to mind, or a couple of stories. I know you have many that you'd like to share, whether it be happy ending or not, but that illustrates the power of the work that you've been doing out there.
Well, I have a client, and she knows that I mentioned her in the book through a changing the names and details about her so she could never be identified. But, I have had a client about 3 or 4 years ago, super unhappily married, and her husband had done egregious things, porn and drinking and neglect, and they had 3 little kids, and so she was trying to responsibly contemplate leaving him and how to do this and how to not damage her kids, and she was very conscientious about all of this. And then lo and behold, we find out she started having an affair with his best friend. So the marriage crisis manager told her, look, if you left your husband and weren't having an affair, you would come off as a very sympathetic character. Yeah. You get a lot of people would understand. But when you do something like this, you are going to become the villain. And you're going to pay the heaviest price in the world. So I literally spent a year and a half. She was under a spell, as all people are when they're in the throes of a new romance. Right. And I gave her every warning that told her how it was going to play out, and by golly, of course, her husband eventually found out. Everything blew up. All their friends turned their back on her. She became a pariah. She loved her husband's family. They wouldn't have anything to do with her anymore. So now we're into this. 3 years later, they're divorced. Her ex-husband is now dating the wife of the guy she's having an affair with.
Oh my goodness.
Her life is a shit show. And she's been a basket case for a year and a half because of the heavy price that she has paid for not being able to control herself. And she's even contemplating breaking up with this guy. Because I told her, do you realize that if you broke up with this guy, that 80% of your problems that you're in the dumps about would go away? She says, I know this, but right now my pride and ego won't let me do it because everybody will say I told you so. So we got to get her over that hump. But anyway, I use her as an example of people that are so certain that they want to divorce. They're absolutely 1,000% certain. They're hell-bent on it. And then fast forward 3 years, because they did not manage the crisis in a thoughtful, intelligent, rational way, and they were listening to their worst self and making self-sabotaging decisions. And she's sitting there in anguish now, wishing she could go back in time and redo everything differently. And that's what she's the poster child for what I want to avoid.
Oh man, that's powerful. It's like, don't make a bad situation worse. Right? That's what I was thinking the entire time. No. And then the ego, like what you were saying, and all these other things come into play, and then you can't get out of the situation. So that is a very good story to illustrate everything that you're trying to avoid. So thank you so much for sharing that. And like you mentioned, this is also in the book, so people can go and check it out. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, before I have you share how people can connect with you beyond the book, I would love to ask you my $1 million question that I ask all of my guests. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dr. Becky, what is an empowered woman to you?
I think an empowered woman to me is someone that has a vision and is actionable toward achieving the vision. People now tell me all the time, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write, but do they ever write the book? No. Like, maybe 1 in 500 people that tell you they're going to write a book ever actually do it. So I think, all of us are designed to have a a purpose and do something meaningful in our lives. And when you align with that, it's taking fear out of your life and just realizing that, like, that fear is what keeps me from my dreams, and action is what gets me to my dreams. So I can't express to people how putting the pedal to the metal is what a powerful woman is. And here's the thing, and I wrote about this in a blog recently. If you just take the steps and punch through your anticipatory fear and the negative voice telling you, oh, it won't work, that if you just push through that, you're the exception to the rule. Like you're a rare bird, because most of the population slinks back in action, and they don't go for it, and they live a life of regrets. And so, because so few of us do that extra effort and actually do or attempt to do what we're dreaming of, it's amazing how often we're successful.
Yeah. And all it takes is, like you said, having the vision and then taking action. Oh, that's so good. Such wisdom.
Take action, girls. Come on. Stop talking and start doing.
And start doing. Absolutely. You're speaking my language. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. We'll make sure and have your book in the show notes for people to go check out. How else can people connect with you if they want to?
I have a website, marriagecrisismanager.com. I'm going to be offering classes for people that have marriage issues, and also for therapists, and teaching them how to do this. And I have a support group on Thursdays around noon Central Time, where anyone can join us and drop in to talk about their marriage or relationships. So I encourage everybody to pop into one of my support groups and get information, and I'll answer your questions, and we'll talk about your life, or whatever, and you'll get some good advice.
So good. Thank you so much for all the resources. We'll make sure and have that in the show notes, and I hope people will take advantage of everything that you've put out there, because it really shows that you're wanting to help and wanting to get people into a better place in their relationships.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends, or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.